we get email after email all the time, multiple times every single week with the exact same story, which is I showed up, my friends started giving me all kinds of they were making fun of me for about 3 holes. They got a little quiet after another 3 holes. And then at the turn, every single one of them is on their phones, checking out the website, trying to figure out how they can get one. And it is the same story over and over and over and over and over again. And it's just been so fun to watch these little explosions. It sounds like you had one. You got yours, and then a few months later, 2 of your good buddies got one. And I think we just set up one of your friends with a mez.
Hi, this is Bill Hilton from Naperville, Illinois, and I play at the Links of Caroline. Golf Smarter number 828.
I'm happy to welcome back the sponsor of this week's episode, Dynamic Golfers, who've developed a golf-specific exercise program that works. Stay tuned to hear you can win a year-long membership to Dynamic Golfers. Stop fighting with your putter. That's the advice we get from CEO of Lab Golf, Sam Hahn.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me, Fred.
Happy New Year, my friend.
And a Happy New Year to you.
Oh, and let's hope it's a profitable, successful, COVID-free year for you and all your employees and friends, family, and everybody listening in this world right now. Sure,
I will hope for all that, and I will not expect it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to talk about your putting line, Lab Golf, and the directed force putters, lie angle balance, why Lab Golf is lie angle balance. But for those who have not met you before, not heard anything, give the elevator pitch for Lab Golf.
Lab Golf has 2 patents, one of which in particular is a physics equation that when you apply it to a putter, allows the putter to stay perfectly square to the arc all by itself. It's a literal self-squaring putter.
And let's take that a little deeper now that we've gotten out of the elevator and you've got my attention. Let's go a little bit further because I know some putters, like there's some really expensive putter out there that are face balanced, and there are some very expensive putters out there that are heel balanced. But why is lie angle balanced a better way to go?
Put most simply, in one hand is a putter that stays square all by itself, and in the other hand is all of the putters that you just mentioned, which are, from a physics standpoint, actively working to have the face be anywhere other than where we actually want it. And yeah, we have putters from $70 all the way up to the thousands, all designed around this narrative about face balance versus toe hang, and one of those being better for one kind of stroke or another. At Lab, we can't possibly wrap our heads around why you would choose anything other than a putter that's designed to go where you're trying to go. And none of those other putters do. Over the years, the different manufacturers have needed a story. They've needed a marketing pitch. And consequently, this narrative about, a putter somehow requiring an element of torque and twisting in order to fit your natural motion, that's what they're pitching. But with our technology and with the device that we use to prove our technology, you can see pretty clearly that this narrative just simply doesn't hold water. And you can see in real life that this narrative about one being better for a certain type of stroke or another doesn't hold water. Patrick Cantlay is the best example in recent memory. I mean, there's tons of examples, but Cantlay was, has been one of the elite putters on tour since he came out on tour. Absolutely stunning motion. I've had the pleasure of watching him putt up close, and it's absolutely remarkable. He won a U.S. Amateur and played most of his PGA Tour career with a Newport 2, which is, a ping answer. And a pretty heavy toe hang putter, and was extremely successful with it. It got a little bit cold on him sometime in the middle of last season, and he started messing around, and he ended up from a torque profile perspective, the exact opposite of what he had been using. He's got a big honking single bend, face balanced, kind of not quite oversized, but large mallet that he's using now, and ran the tables at the end of last season with that putter. And so nothing about his stroke changed. The amount of gait, the amount of arc, the path, the angle of attack, none of these things changed. And lo and behold, despite that, the narrative suggests he definitely needs that Newport 2 putter, all of a sudden he's, pretty much the best putter on the planet with a putter that, according to, most of the manufacturers, shouldn't work for him, but it does.
And why do you think that's so? That it works for him?
I think because scar tissue. I think that I think you miss enough putts with a given putter, and your body kind of somewhat subconsciously recognizes the signs, the feelings in your hands when you're about to miss that putt. And so just sort of breaking the cycle and working around your scar tissue can help you be successful. Just something different. And I know this better than anybody. I mean, before lab, I was riding different. That was I truly was intentionally switching putters every single round of golf I played, even if I'd putted well the round before, because of the power of different, the power of being in discovery mode. And there's not a golfer on the planet that hasn't had that moment, that hasn't had the moment where they pick up somebody else's putter or something that they found at the store and they just absolutely can't miss. And, from a science perspective, my best, understanding of that is that, the torque profile of whatever they were using had run its course. You were reacting to it differently throughout the stroke. And then all of a sudden you got a putter that feels different in motion. You react differently in motion, and the results are different. And occasionally the results are great. And you're like, oh, I should have been using this putter the whole time. And then, go check on that same person with that same putter 2 weeks later, and I guarantee you they're back to their old putter or on to another one or whatever. And so there is power in different. And then as soon as you start scarring yourself up with different, you're back to square one and just looking for something to feel fresh, something to put you back in discovery mode.
So many things that you said there I want to unpack. And the concept of reacting versus acting during your motion. Let's pick that one apart, because that was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it is. And whether we acknowledge it or, certainly at the lower, the amateur level, whether we even know that we're feeling what we're feeling, we are absolutely reacting to what we're feeling in our hands. And if you take a minute to go putt, maybe hit some 6-footers focusing on really, really, really light grip pressure, or even just take your thumbs entirely off the putter, you're going to start to notice that putter is trying to move. It's trying to spin one direction or another. If you got a face balance putter, as soon as you put it in motion on the way back, it's trying to open, and it's trying to fall to the inside. A toe hang putter, as soon as you put it in motion, is actually trying to shut. And so if you lighten up the grip pressure enough and actually put your attention on what you're feeling, you're going to feel the thing move. And if you're telling me that your body isn't reacting to that, I just don't believe you. And so we all react to these different torque profiles of these different putters. And then that's why lab is so profound, because now there's no more reacting to the snake in your hand. Now putting becomes, and I say this all the time, it becomes so much more like every other stroke, sport, or motion that you would make, where you're not fighting the instrument. When you're throwing a dart, you're counting on the fact that when you release it, it's going to fly in the direction that you released it. There's no, if the dart was missing a fletching or had, part of the trick was, dealing with a asymmetrical weight on a dart, it would be a very different game.
Sure.
Managing trying to get a thing to fly straight that's not trying to fly straight would be the focal point. But because we can count on a dart flying straight, the target is our focal point. And that's what lab allows you to do, is all of a sudden you get to ditch all this craziness with what kind of grip should I be using and how should I be standing and what's the proper way to manage the putter face and what is square, what does square feel like. All these different things are just out the window. And now we get to look at the ground and we look at the hole and we react to the target instead of reacting to the instrument in our hands.
All right. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, I want to talk more about how that impacts us, not the guys on tour.
Sure.
Okay. We'll be back right after this. I'm very happy to welcome back Dynamic Golfers as the sponsor of this episode. Dynamic Golfers is a golf-specific exercise program that works. You may remember back to last spring when I first introduced you to Dynamic Golfers. In that time, we've also featured many fitness instructors on this show who repeat over and over on the importance of fitness, mobility, and flexibility as a path to game improvement. You've also heard me talk about my personal quest to become a better golfer and the variety of swing methods, diets, even supplements that I've tried over the years to help lower my score. But let's just look at the facts. When I started this podcast in 2005, I was an 18 handicap. I started doing Dynamic Golfers workouts back in April of 2021, a month before they started sponsoring the podcast. At that time, my handicap was a very satisfying 11.4. And I was diligent about doing the 15 to 20 minute video session each morning. And by the time the campaign finished in July, my index had dropped to 9.1. But just because they didn't renew, I still continued to do the workouts. Maybe not as dedicated, but still doing it 3 to 4 times each week and definitely the morning of each round. Yesterday, I completed workout number 154 of 419 of their daily stretching and mobility workouts. As of today, my handicap is down to 8.8. Is it my meat-free diet? Maybe. Is it my lab golf putter? Possibly. But the one consistent thing I've done is Dynamic Golfers. So you can spend thousands of dollars for an annual gym membership and not get any help that's specifically designed for golfers, or you can sign up for the 7-day free trial at dynamicgolfers.com/golfsmarter and get yourself on track to feel better and play better. That's dynamicgolfers.com/golfsmarter. And stay tuned to the end of the episode to hear how you can win an annual membership valued at $90. I'm so excited to have them back on the podcast because I can honestly say that it works for me. And I think it'll work for you too. dynamicgolfers.com/golfsmarter. Sam, for most golfers, they're not, most amateur golfers. I don't want to talk about tour guys. I don't want to talk about club champions and the 5 and under handicap guys. But for most of us, we're not sure what it feels like to do it right. And
Sure.
We probably are fighting our putter every single time. There's nobody, I don't care what your handicap is, there's nobody who's not standing over the ball going, I got this, maybe I don't got this. Right? Exactly. It's like you're always going to be questioning it. And you're always like, I think I got the line. I got the line. I'm good. I hope.
Right. No, there's always doubt. That
Always
is
doubt.
what separates us from the guys on TV.
Yeah.
Even to a fault, they have no doubt.
Right. Even on the short ones, they have no doubt. You see, and they look at their caddy like, "What happened? What happened?" It's like, come on, guys, really? The ground happened.
You pulled it. We know you pulled it. But no, denial is a very powerful and useful tool out there on tour,
and not just a river in Egypt. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I mean, most of us can't feel what correct is. And one of the really interesting things, most golfers, aren't like me and you. You and I are somewhat obsessive, and we think about the game a lot, and we're rolling putts in our living room, and we're watching all the events, and we're talking to golfers all the time. I put one in my backyard.
I put a whole putting green in the backyard.
Now we're talking. But the average player doesn't do that. The average player, pulls the sticks out of the garage, 3 to 10 times a year. They just want to go hang out and have some fun with their friends. And it doesn't mean that they're not engaged when they're on the golf course trying to make putts, but they're not lying awake at night thinking about torque and putters. And so one of the funny things that I've noticed is that most people are actually under the impression that their putter stays square by itself. And they find, like I've seen it, at my club when I see some guy just, out on the putting green grinding, and I've done it. I have totally, been so frustrated with my putting, and I go and I set up a 4-footer on the putting green to try and figure out what's going on. And I've worked myself into believing, like, okay, if I just stay really steady, the putter should just arrive back where it started, on not necessarily like a conscious level, but we were under the impression that it should be simple.
Right.
That's what's frustrating about it. That's what's so infuriating about missing a 4-foot putt is that the hole's right there. It's right there. And like, how could it be possible that this putter did not strike the ball in a direction where it just goes in? And,
I'm absolutely convinced the hole moves as soon as I stroke the ball.
Oh, yeah. And you know that because you keep your head down, right? You never even see it. Yeah, there you go.
Don't point at me.
And so, people have been treating putters like darts and bowling balls and basketballs to a fault, because they're not. They do require, other putters besides ours require a level of management that is really, really, really challenging. You want to have soft hands and soft forearms and all of this, because that's how we are when we're trying to stroke something smoothly. Well, if you do that with a putter, you got to find that perfect marriage between relaxation and tension in order to manage the putter face. And you can't just stay perfectly smooth and soft, because the putter's going to get out of control on you. And then, enter lab, it no longer does.
But there are so many putters out there that you see on tour, and that influences people more than anything, in their purchases, is not just the commercials in between the rounds, but, there's a guy using the Scotty Cameron, right? All these Scotty putters out there. And everyone's like, I got a Scotty Cameron. It's like, yeah, but do you know what to do with it? And do you know why you have it? Is it just because it's the brand name? Or because Tiger made him, Tiger just launched him into the stratosphere as far as sales. But is that necessarily I don't even want to say a good putter. Is that necessarily the right putter for amateur golfers?
No, it's totally not. And obviously I have a crazy bias. So I try to kind of tread lightly here to not sound like, crazy cult leader guy, but again, no, it's not the right putter. It's not the right putter for anyone. I don't even think it's the right putter for the guys on tour, because why wouldn't you want the one that stays square by itself? There's
calm down, bro.
I just don't know who could possibly convince me that over a period of, time, that a putter that's actively seeking to arrive back where you pointed it is somehow not as effective as one that is actively working away from the target. So no, they're not the right putters for most people. Our putters are, one of the coolest things about being, 4 years into this journey now is seeing where our customers are 4 years later. and having some real data now, and having, real experiences that people have dealt with. And I have only grown infinitely more confident that this is a better mousetrap. One of my favorite things whenever I get, down in the dumps, just dealing with everything other than customers, whether it's, head covers from overseas or sourcing shafts, or, just all the general stuff of running a business. And I sort of lose sight on what it is that we're doing, which is just trying to make the game a little bit more fun. I jump over to Golf WRX, and Golf WRX has a thread that, according to them, is pretty much the all-time best members testing thread. It's gone on for over 2.5 years now. It started with the original 10 people that we sent putters to test. And these are people that, live to talk crap about putters. They want to do the tests, and they want to find everything wrong with it and nitpick it, and, and all the stuff. And
there's a reason they call them critics. Yeah,
exactly. And now there's, I think, 80 pages. Gosh, I wish I could remember how, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of comments. And short of the fact that the directed force is ridiculous looking, you won't find a negative comment. You really won't. Like, I mean, it's like a couple hundred pages, 80 pages, whatever the hell it is. I mean, it's hours and hours and hours of reading. And one after another, you'll hear people like, hey, I got it. Feels good. I can definitely feel there's something different here, but the ball's not going in just yet. And then a week later, they're posting, I just went around in 25 putts. I just shot my all-time greatest round ever.
Wow.
And these people keep coming back to check in and talk about their experience. And even on positive comments with other putters, on those, in that same forum, the stuff that you'll hear is, oh my God, this thing is so sexy. Oh my God, it fits my eye. Oh, I love the sound. I love the feel. All of these things that have absolutely no impact whatsoever on your score. And then you read ours, and it's like, I'm making more putts than I ever have. I've never been more confident inside of 10 feet. My lag putts are tap-ins, like actual progress in their game. And so, I think the original question had something to do with, is that Scotty Cameron the right putter for your game? I'm not one to completely discount the joy of pulling, a beautiful handcrafted, hand-milled answer style putter out of a head cover and onto a green. I have a few that sit over there by my putting mat, and I like to look at them every once in a while, and I like to mess around and get all nostalgic. But holy crap, do I like making birdies a lot more than I like looking at my old putters.
Yeah. And we're going to take another break, but I want to keep going with the visual, the look, the comments that you get from your playing partners when you pull out your DF2. So
I think I should interview you about that. You tell me.
All right, well, here goes, and we'll do that after we come back right after this. So many people, when they're looking at golf clubs and putters, it's like, it just looks right to me. I just like the way it looks when I'm looking down at it. And then you pull out the DF2, which is what I play, and now am willing to put on gloves to fight over. If somebody wants to pull that out of my bag, it's like, no. Because like you said a minute ago, my lag putting has vastly improved, and now I'm, tap-ins, and inside of 8 feet, I don't even go to 10 feet, but inside 8 feet, I'm much more confident. I'm much more consistent. I mean, I'm getting guys going, that's good. Yeah, you've been doing it all day. Right. Just pick it up. You're good. It's like, right? Love that. But then there's also what's with the Starship Enterprise on your putter? What is that thing? And it's like, yeah, look at this, buddy, and then look at the scorecard.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things that's funny about the way that the directed force looks is that I'm sure there's some psychological term for how this goes, but am I allowed to swear on your show?
Well, depends how far you go, because I have had emails I've had emails from listeners going, my kid's in the back seat, man. Like, well, I'm sorry.
Bleep this one out, but everybody takes so much shit when you bring this putter onto the green. There's nobody
that word's acceptable even on TV these days. So thank you.
Good work. All right, good. Everybody takes shit, and when you're defending something, I think it creates a sense of attachment, and so our customers and the DF users end up very, very devout, followers of the technology because of having to deal with all of their friends giving them so much crap. And so we get, email after email all the time, multiple times every single week, with the exact same story, which is I showed up, my friends started giving me all kinds of crap. They were making fun of me for about 3 holes. They got a little quiet after another 3 holes. And then at the turn, every single one of them is, on their phones, checking out the website, trying to figure out how they can get one. And it is the same story over and over and over and over and over again. And it's just been so fun to watch these little explosions. It sounds like you had one. You got yours, and then, a few months later, two of your good buddies got one. And I think we just set up one of your friends with a Mez. And, I have friends. I mean, I have people, I got a buddy, this is one of my favorites, is like some of my people that I play with, I think they feel a little awkward about, the ones that haven't switched yet, which at this point is, almost none, but, the ones that haven't switched yet, I think feel a little bit awkward about it and playing with me with their, whatever they have. And, a good buddy of mine, Big B, we play a lot of golf together. He's a big fella. And he, played in college, crazy talent, and, really good, strong player. And he had his grandfather's 8813, like a straight L blade, like a 8802. It's, Wilson, straight L blade. There's no technology into this, in this putter whatsoever. I mean, this is similar to what Bobby Jones was using and Crenshaw and all them. So, and he would just, was very proud of it, was very proud of the fact that he was using his grandfather's putter. And he was a pretty good putter. He was okay. Putted better with it than I certainly would have with that little technology in a putter. And, I'd flick him some grief, every round we played, every time he'd miss one of the 6-footers, and we're like, oh, there you go. There's technology for you. And, and so it got to the point where he was stubbornly just wouldn't, try my putter. Finally, grabs mine on a, 12th, 13th hole somewhere, hits a few putts. That's kind of interesting. Next round does the same thing, grabs it and wiggles it. Next round, uses mine the last 4 holes. And at this point, Brian is probably our biggest fan out there, and wow. Ditching his 8813 and and swore up and down he would never ever put something so ugly and atrocious looking and gimmicky and whatever in his bag. And now, just like everybody else who uses one, you just can't imagine using anything else. Everything else feels like a snake.
Well, I'll tell you what happened to me is I started I was using my putter from, I don't even want to say it anymore, but I got your putter a while back, and long-time listeners know what I was playing with. I just can't remember because I blocked that out of my memory.
There we go.
But so I started using yours, and it was good. I was really struggling with my lag putting on it, and then interviewed Barney Adams about his latest endeavor, which are these shafts that he believes that, there's still torque that happens when you hit a ball, and it can just go offline. Even 1 degree is going to make a difference. And they, these stability shafts that he created, put that on it, and it just changed everything for me, including the sound. which to me was much better. But then now I feel really good, really confident with that shaft on it as well. And you talked about torque and shafts. So that really does make a difference
absolutely.
on the putters.
Yeah. I mean, the torque that we are, that we're talking about is on the face. It's a different axis than the shaft, and so what they're talking about, what Barney's talking about, and some of these other manufacturers like LAGP and now Acra, who's been working with us. Putter shafts do flex, and people wouldn't normally consider it. And in the past, people had put feel over function. So, in fact, in the past, putter shafts had gone 180 degrees the other way of where they're going now, where people used to put really soft shafts in their putter because they feel sweet. And Cameron, in fact, notably, when he was first starting to bring some of his, hand-milled stuff out on tour, was putting these whippy little ladies flex shafts in them because they felt super duper sweet. But doing so to the detriment of performance. And just like in a driver, if you have a shaft that's too soft and the tempo on one swing varies from one swing to the next, you're going to get different results because the shaft's going to kick at a different point in the swing, and you're going to start hitting the ball all over the place. And so the same thing with the putter. Obviously, it's not quite as extreme. The results aren't as obvious. But finally, there's been some independent testing, not just from the manufacturers, on the impact of these shafts, and it's not insignificant. And so to eliminate the putter shaft flexing and then recovering at various points throughout the stroke, and to mitigate the negative effects that has, Barney, the LAGP guys, Acra, and now pretty much everyone's getting in the putter shaft game. They're making these ridiculously stiff shafts, which we always could have done, but when people would try it in the past with just tipping out an X100 shaft, steel shaft, and making it crazy stiff, it just felt like crap. And so what Barney has done and all these other manufacturers has found a way to make a ridiculously stiff shaft that feel pretty good. And the results, I don't know anybody that didn't like the stability when they got it. At worst, you hear some people be a little neutral on it and be like, I think it's better. I can't quite tell, because it is putting and it's subtle.
Yeah, and even difficult. Barney will say that, and we've had him on the show, and he's like, Barney, let's talk about your shaft. No, because most people won't even know the difference. I don't want to talk about
it. Right. Yeah, and that's pretty much. They're expensive. They're definitely very expensive. Yeah. We have a commitment at Lab. We are not upsellers. We're not trying. We're trying to get people to putt better. And for a lot of people, buying our putters is a major financial commitment. And the shtick that I have, when people are asking, is the shaft really worth it? I say, look, if you're well off, if money's not a big issue, absolutely go for it. I mean, even if it's 0.5% better, we're all trying to get 0.5% better. And if it is going to, have too much of an impact on the wallet, then, it might not be life-changing. And the shafts that we do install, we do tip the crap out of them and make, have done our own kind of internal engineering on the putter to make it so that the steel shafts that we put in them, for the DF, it's a KBS CT Tour shaft, and then for the Mez, it's sort of a modified True Temper that we use. Both of them, really, really stiff and very, very stable shafts.
Okay, you gave a little tease there. Let's take another break, and then when we come back, I want to talk about the various putters that you have on the Lab line, because you've just introduced something new that can quiet down a lot of people.
No
especially the ones who want to pull out their phone, take a picture of this thing, the Starship Enterprise. So let's do that after this. I want to talk about the different putters that you have in your line, because you don't have a huge selection of putters to go from. But I also want to talk about the fitting that you guys do. And I want to talk about the grips that you offer, because that's also a really special part of these putters.
Absolutely.
But let's start with what you started with, and we really didn't even talk about, you talked about the device that helps you see what the different putters do. Yeah. The revealer, right? Which is also part of when I give my elevator pitch about the putter, I bring in the revealer. I talk about it heavily.
Oh, I don't even, only because you asked it, I give you what I would say. But at this point, when people ask me, I just pull up my phone and I just show them the video. It's just so much easier than sitting there like, it's got this thing where it hangs and then you spin the thing and it does the stuff and the whatnot. It's just a pretty difficult thing to convey verbally.
And I'll put that video on our blog page from this episode. So people can go check out and see what the revealer is and then share it with their friends too.
So where do you want to start? You had a handful of things.
I had a handful, and I hate asking multiple questions. But let's talk about the different putters that you have in the lab line.
So the company started as Directed Force, and the big branding iron spaceship horseshoe thing that everybody knows, that was originally called the Reno, and that putter is and will always be our flagship model. You can see here, this is, it's our logo. It's everything to us. It is a genius shape. It was designed by Bill Pressey, who's the guy who invented the technology,
who we've had on the show because of you.
And you should have him back. He's working on some very, very, very cool stuff.
Will do.
And he designed this putter, and it has so many unique aspects to it. Too many to get into, but it's genius. There's so many lines and curves and contours that are would seem arbitrary. And they're not. It's the most deliberate and intentional putter design in history. And it is still, even with the release of some new stuff, the most technologically advanced putter on planet Earth. It is the most forgiving. It is the most stable. It is the easiest to use putter ever. However, as we know and as we've talked about, there's a whole lot of people for whom function is not everything.
Right.
So the next putter that Lab released was actually called the Blade 1, which was fairly short-lived for manufacturing reasons. It was very tough to keep it in production and very difficult to balance. So we made some modifications. It came out with the B2. The B2 is, a 180 from the DF. It is the most pared down, simple putter that you can find anywhere. It is basically a block of stainless steel on the end of a stick. And
so how is that able to work with the revealer where other blade putters wouldn't? How are you able to get that technology?
The same technology applied. Yeah, I mean, it's harder. I mean, that's what's very surprising to most people, is that you would think, looking at the two, that the directed force is the more complicated one to balance and to manufacture. And it's in fact the opposite. The very simple B2, we have like no margin for error on where we locate the shaft bore. Otherwise the thing just will not balance. And if it does balance, it'll be way too heavy or way too light. Or so, it's just, it requires massive precision because of how small the footprint is and how little room we have to move the center of gravity around with weight and tungsten powder and stuff. But we wanted to cover that side of the spectrum, and it's way easier on the eyes, particularly if you're somebody that's already used to playing with center shafted blade putters, which is tough for some. Visually, it's difficult when the shaft sort of bisects the top line. But if you're comfortable with that, oh my God, is it clean? It's just such a simple, easy looking putter. It feels absolutely sweet because it's just completely solid stainless steel or brass. And it is lying well balanced. So same principles apply where you're just trying to kind of let the putter do its thing. It's trying to arrive back at square, and you just have to let it. Because of the lack of size and width and depth and length and all that, generally the experience is described as not as obvious. The lie angle balancing, when you pull the directed force back, the minute you pull it back, there's something different going on. That it is swinging through the air in a different way than anything you've ever used before. The blade is a little bit more up to you. It's not quite as on rails as the DF is. It spins a little easier if you're spinning it. It's not trying to spin, but if you're cranking it open and cranking it closed, you're gonna have an easier time doing that with the blade than you will the DF. But it was a super duper simple design. Interestingly, not nearly as popular amongst the general public, and significantly more popular at the higher level. A lot of the tour guys, the DF is just too much putter for them to be pulling back on those, super greasy greens. And so we've had quite a few plays out on tour with the blade. Even got a really, really talented guy named Tane Lee, who just got full status on the Korn Ferry Tour made a beautiful 25-foot putt on the last hole to sneak into the top 10 by one, and did so with his 7,000 pound brass B2. He has such an unusual one of our putters. But he uses that blade. Jimmy Walker was using the blade for a while, and a handful of other guys have dabbled with it. But it's still definitely got a lot of grief with its oversimplification and how industrial and simple and whatever, so we started work on a third model to land somewhere in between. And what we came up with is called Mez 1. And here it is. And it was every putter we make is obviously going to be lie angle balance. That's what we do. So that was a given. And then the rest of it was just trying to help make the technology more accessible. And we didn't want to completely just sell out and make a lie angle balance spider, like everybody seems to be doing. And, but we did want to make something that was familiar looking, familiar enough that most people didn't have the just horrifying visceral reaction to, seeing one of our putters. But definitely still weird enough that, it's a lab. It's got some funny lines on it. It's the basic footprint is similar to like an Odyssey number 7, a Fang style putter. But we did some very interesting things, both to help us manufacture it a little easier. And then also to, expand people's minds on what's possible with some of the more conventional looking shapes. Now, what's funny is that, I mentioned WRX. We just sent out 10 of these to another random group of WRXers, and that thread is now up. And cosmetically, with the directed force, the only the grief that we would get about how it looked was very simple. It would be, that thing is really ugly. And that would be the end of it. That would just be that. There was no there was no follow up. Whatever different criticisms of how it looks. It would just be a general, good Lord, get that thing away from my eyeballs. And the Mez, I just noticed, now we're a week deep into the testing thread going. Now that we have made something a little bit more conventional, we have a whole new world of armchair putter designers that are calling out these really specific things about the putter, which I just find so interesting. Because now there's something to compare it to. So we're getting direct comparisons, to other putters that are out on the market, which the directed force never had to deal with. There was nothing to compare it to. It was, an island unto itself. And now that the Mez has a little bit more of a familiar shape, you got your. I wish they would have sloped the fangs back a little bit more like the number 7, or I wish that the points were a little closer together like the ping version so that you could pick up the ball, or, everybody's got their 2 cents on how it should look. And overall, I'm still so pleased. I'm so tickled every time I pull it out of my bag. I've been using it for a while now, and it's such an interesting design. The guy who predominantly did the design is a fellow named John Berquist. John has a putter brand called Flux, and you should check it out. Flux. He'd also probably be a good interview for you too, because he's been all over the industry. He was the fellow that took over as CEO of Rife after Gearin left, and designed dozens and dozens and dozens of different Rife putters. Has incredible understanding of the industry, and from design to manufacturing to releasing all the stuff. He's a total pro, and has a very, very cool style. And if you check out the Flux stuff and you check out the Mez 1 that he produced for us, you can see he's got a really beautiful design voice. And we're just super, super stoked with the way this thing turned out.
Well, I'm excited to get my hands on one, mainly because my buddies and I, for my friend's birthday, bought him the Mez 1. He's a terrible golfer. He's not listening. No, he's not listening. He's a terrible golfer, but he's good at putting. He's okay at putting, right? That's probably the best part of his game, because basically everything just rolls on the ground no matter what he does. So the putting he can do. And so we bought him the Mez 1, and I can't wait to see. But it's like my first comment is, you still can't pick the ball up with this thing when I saw
No,
it.
because you can pick it out of the hole.
Yeah, well,
picking it out of a hole
listen,
more
my
often.
friends are in their, they're on the back nine of life, let's just say. And so bending over is something they try to avoid to do. I'll pick it up for you. It's okay.
Oh my God. The number of discussions that took place inside the lab factory about the fact that this thing does not have a ball scoop. Months and months and months, it was a daily conversation, and I held my ground, and I had a very easy way of getting around, prioritizing the ball scoop, which was the number one selling putter in history. Well, let's give you a little quiz. Do you know what the number one selling putter in history is?
2-ball.
Correct. Has no ball scoop.
Lucky guess.
Coming up hard behind it is the Spider and the different variations of the Spider, which also does not have a ball scoop.
There you go.
So one of these days we'll make it a little easier. And by the way, your DF does have a ball scoop. We're going to have to train you on how to use that thing.
I'm about 1 in 6 or 7 times that I can get that to work. Well, you can just put something at the end of the grip just to flip the putter over and, suck it up and do a suction cup.
On this Mez thread, people were bitching about how there's no ball scoop, and
that I have to
it was one comment after another, and then finally some dude was like, "If you guys care this much about a ball scoop, then you won't care about how ridiculous you're going to be putting this thing on the end of your grip, because that's all you need." And he took a big picture of that suction cup thing and put it out there. It's like, here's your solution. Now shut up about the ball scoop. And I was like, I love this guy.
All right. I want to take last break here. And then when we come back, I still have questions about all 3 of your putters and the shafting of it. So we'll do that after this. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans is the first of 2 parts with clubmaker and golf instructor Rick Koscher, the Golf Better coach.
It's really important for us to understand how many putts we're hitting.
Mm-hmm.
But I ask people to identify what their scoring clubs are in their bag. Meaning, which is the club in your bag that you feel very consistently you should be hitting the green with in regulation. Now, for some of us, it could be our 5 irons and on up. For many of us, it might be our 9 irons through our wedges. And for others, it just may be a couple of wedges. All I ask is for you to count any stroke that you make with that as a scoring shot. So now at the end of the day, you have number of putts per round, and then you have number of scoring shots that you hit. And if you add the 2 of them together and divide by the total number of shots you've hit, you'll find that you end up with somewhere around 65, maybe even 70% of your overall game being consumed by all of your scoring shots.
That's episode 144 of Golf Smarter Mulligans, being released this Friday. Golf Smarter Mulligans are the best podcasts from the early episodes of Golf Smarter that are just no longer available on any podcast app. Please write a review, subscribe, and follow both of our golf podcasts so that you can hear the brand new episode when it becomes available. All the putters that you manufacture at Lab Golf, the Blade 2, the B2 blade, the DF2, and now the Mez 1, MEZZ 1, number 1, they're all center shafted putters. Correct?
Correct. Yes. The location,
not heel shafted, which most people think that that's the best way to do that, for a putter to be. But why?
It's the cornerstone of our technology. In order to balance the putters the way we do and get them to have the proper speed of rotation, which I'll let Bill expand on more than I would be able to. We're putting that shaft really, really, really close, not directly in, but really, really close to the center of mass. That's how you get them to do what they do. And so, down the road, there is some different ways that we could possibly, move the shaft a little bit one direction or another and still achieve what we achieve. But mostly doing it other ways, you can get close to what we do, but not all the way there. So Adele, for instance, his torque balance line does have the shaft resting in the putter on the heel. It's bent in a way that effectively the shaft is pointing very near the center of gravity, or center of mass, the way that ours does. But like I said, it gets you close. His putter, balances toe up. So it would appear as though it balances the same way as ours, but as soon as you put it in motion, it's trying to torque. It's actually trying to, it'll open up. And then as soon as you start and transition down, it's actually trying to shut. So significantly less torque than, a conventional putter. But there's definitely still torque. And then also because of where he's sticking the shaft, they had to remove so much weight from the toe in order to remove the torque that they did, that you end up with some really unfortunate results when you start getting away from the center of the putter. Whereas with ours, sticking the shaft the way that we do it, you just have, it gives you so much consistency across the face. It's just so much more forgiving and so much more balanced on either side of the shaft axis that, as I'm sure you've discovered with your directed force, you can catch it, an inch out on the toe or the neck and feels clanky and crappy, and you look down in disgust, and then you look up and lo and behold, the ball's still right next to the hole. So that has a lot to do with where we stick that shaft. But the short answer is the shaft needs to be where it is in order to achieve what we achieve.
When I first started playing golf in my 40s, it always seemed to me to make sense that it should be in the center, because I'm looking right down the shaft at the ball as opposed to at the heel. And I didn't always hit it right in the center of the putter. Sometimes I hit it at the heel. Sometimes I hit it at the toe. And I know that if I had a heel shafted putter, that had a huge impact. But if I had the center shafted putter, it seemed to kind of work it out a little bit better. So I've always been a fan of center shafted. So when I saw these, it was like, okay, this is really playing into my game. And it did. And it does, continues to do so.
And there's other merit to center shafted stuff too. Just really quickly, I mean, Adele again, in conjunction with a fellow named David Orr, have done very, very, very extensive studies on alignment and what people see, and they proved pretty darn conclusively that a bullseye, which is almost as a true center shafted putter, is actually the most universally aimable putter in the world. And people don't know that they aim it well because it's a little awkward to look at and whatever. But if you just test randomly people's ability to point that thing where they're trying to go, people aim a bullseye better than just about anything else in the world.
Interesting. And the other part of the putters that you provide that's unique is the grip.
Yes.
Because you've built the forward press into it. And I am now more, even with it, I'm more exaggerated on my forward lean than ever before, because now it's part of my rhythm, right?
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4. And that's why I've gotten so much better on my shorter putts, is because instead of like focusing on the hole and how hard I'm going to hit it, it's like, what's my rhythm? Right. And it's forward lean 1, bring it back 2, stroke 3, lift head 4, and that's just made life easier for me and less tense.
Jesus, are you really thinking about all that when you're hitting a putt?
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. I'll do the courtesy of not letting you know what's going on in my mind when I'm hitting a putt.
Okay.
But
let's talk about the grip.
The grip, yeah. So and this is, the other side of Bill's invention, and just absolutely straight up genius.
And grips have become a big deal in putting. Oh, I think when Mickelson first brought out that fat grip, and I think he was the one that everyone started paying attention to.
It was KJ Choi.
It was KJ Choi?
KJ Choi was the first guy to do it, and he was using a big fat super stroke that they actually had to screw onto the shaft.
Wow.
Yep. It was a 2-piece grip that they clamped on either side of the grip and then screwed it, put a screw through it to get it to go. And that was the beginning of super stroke. But yeah, grips are a big deal now. They can absolutely help. They're such a wonderful quick fix too, when you just want to feel something different, to, like we were talking about before, just to change it up and change the feel, change to something just so that you're in discovery mode. A grip is a really cheap way to, effectively grab yourself a new putter for a week. And I'll touch on what our grips can do for other putters, but for what they do for ours, they were designed not to help people forward press the putter. They were designed to deal with the ergonomic issues of sticking the shaft where we do. So we were just talking about a second ago, the shaft goes in the center of the head. And so with something that has as big a footprint as the DF, the shaft is a couple inches behind the face of the putter, which is totally the opposite of everything else we use. At worst, with putters that it sounds like you've used in the past, the face is right on line with the shaft. And for the vast majority of putters out there, the face is actually even set behind the shaft, and there's offset. Well, with our putter, the face is way in front of the shaft. And if you don't lean the shaft forward and you don't put a press grip on it, you now have a scenario where the face is arriving at the ball long before the hands do. So kind of early in the arc, and consequently, people miss putts to the right when they have an onset putter without any lean and without a press grip. So the Odyssey backstrike was a great example of that, where they had done a pretty good job of reducing, not eliminating, but reducing torque with that putter, and it swung really nicely, and people could feel that when they were using it. But they never caught on, because unless you were somebody that really over rotated through impact, you were going to miss everything to the right. And the only person that I've seen, from a long term, have success with an onset putter without any of these ergonomic issues that we've solved with our press grip is Tommy Gainey. Tommy Two Gloves uses a backstrike putter, and I've seen the guy putt up close, and he is cranking that thing closed through impact. So what Bill did, in order to get the hands back out over the face, he installed the shaft in the center of the head, but had it leaning forward 1.5 degrees, so that right around somewhere between 33 and 35 inches, the top of the shaft was back over the putter face. But now you've got this big head that's super flat on the bottom, sitting all flush on the ground, and you got a crooked shaft leaning forward. So in order to mitigate that, he invented the press grip, which then leans it back. So now your hands are positioned in a way relative to the face, like they would be on any other putter. Your hands are in line with the edge of the putter face, and so you don't have to deal with any of the issues that onset would normally produce. And the benefits of this with our putter, just one after another, like we're just all these happy accidents, and like you get all the benefit of having a center shafted putter. But one of the things that a lot of people can't deal with looking at a center shafted putter, like I alluded to before, is how visually the shaft will bisect the face. It's very awkward to look at. Well, with our stuff, the shaft is so far away from the face that you actually get to see the entire putter, the whole putter face, completely uninterrupted visually, and consequently for most people, it is really, really easy to aim.
Yes.
So yes, so the press grip was invented to give an ergonomic benefit to the directed force, and then we started messing around with different varying amounts of tilt in the grip. We now have a 3-degree grip as well as a 1.5-degree grip, and you can put it on your putter. You can, or on other putters besides a lab putter. And for the most part, we see really, really good results, particularly with Cameron is a great example where his stock loft is significant. I've pulled some putters off the shelves, Camerons that have, as much as 4.5 degrees of loft on it, which unless you do have a pretty true built-in shaft lean forward press motion going on with your putter, that's a lot of loft. And so you can put one of these grips on there, and that'll help kind of effectively scrub some of the loft off of your putter. And then additionally, what I see when people are looking down at a shaft that's leaning forward, I think that there's a visual reaction that is beneficial. When I see people leaning the shaft forward, I typically see a much more of a low to high kind of stroke pattern. And so, the benefits of these grips are all over the place. And consequently, some of the major, box store stuff, one of them that doesn't even carry our putter, does carry our grip. And, it's another alternative. I wouldn't say that putting a press grip on your putter is going to be permanently life-changing, but like I said, sometimes changing a grip just changes your whole outlook on life. And so this is a good option for that.
Yeah, it was making me think that it could be the iPhone of your Apple line. It's like that we're a computer company. Oh, yeah, we'll have this phone, and it just kind of took over the world. Where, your putters at labgolf.com, you buy them online. You can't go to your store and try them out. You buy them online, but your grips.
No, you can.
Oh, you can. You have them in store? You have them in retail
absolutely.
locations?
Yeah, we have
them. Oh, fabulous.
Oh, absolutely.
I thought it was just direct
we have
to consumer.
Nope. We
glad I straightened that out.
We've got them at every for sure. We have a little over 300 different green grass facilities that carry our putters, and the PGA Tour Superstore has them at every single location. And then they're also just now starting Superstores doing like trying to get in the game with the custom fitting stuff. And they have Superstore Studios, they're calling them now. And they just ordered up all the fitting kits and everything to be able to fit our putters there. So you can touch and feel it at, all your Superstores and stuff. And, but yeah, I like that analogy of the iPhone as it relates to Apple. And Bill actually always said, he always thought the bigger impact on the industry would be the grip. And time will tell. We'll see.
Well, who knows? And then, so when we bought our friend the putter, I was having lunch with him, and I was like, "Hey, listen, I just finished this interview with a guy, and we're doing this giveaway, but I need a guinea pig for on how to fit a putter." He's like, "Sure, what do you need?" I'm like, "Just take my putter," and I gave him mine, and I said, "Just stand in front of this doorway and." I'm going to shoot a short video. I'm going to put it on my website. And he's like, "Sure, no problem." Well, when we gave him the putter, we said, remember that time that you were my guinea pig? Actually, you were the subject. And
that's hilarious. I was wondering how you guys were going to trick him into
exactly.
A remote fitting
Luckily,
video.
I have the podcast to fall in. It's like, I need this for something else. But the fitting process is unique and special and valuable. Talk about your fitting process.
Absolutely. It is the coolest, and it's one of the things that does enable us to send very customized, personalized putters direct to consumer. We do have them in stores, but we also do, most of our business is people buying them right through the website. With the directed force, it is so big and so flat on the bottom that dialing in the lie angle is absolutely essential. And Bill invented a process called remote fitting that enables us to do what you did. The instructions are right at the top of the homepage under fitting. But in a nutshell, we have a subject putting towards the camera. And in the background, behind where they're putting, we need like a hard right edge, like a door frame or a window frame or a baseboard or something that gives us a hard right edge. We analyze the stroke. We have an app that we use that helps us draw some lines all over these videos to determine what we think is going to be the most optimal lie angle. And it is staggeringly accurate. We have no issues with the remote fitting, and it's such a different process that we definitely have a lot of skeptical people. I mean, that's every 5 questions on these WRX threads is people going, does the remote fitting really work? And then 15 people will follow up. You're like, bro, so easy. Putter showed up and laid down perfectly. I never didn't have an issue. And so it's a remarkable process, and what allows us to do that, that other companies can't do that for, is that because we're not fitting a putter around a false narrative about what type of torque profile is going to be most optimal for you, all that matters for me is comfort. And so, we're very clear in the instructions for this remote fitting, like, stand however you want to stand. Like if you've always wanted to putt all bent over or with your hands super high or super low, you totally do you and be as comfortable as you possibly can. And that's how we're going to fit the putter, rather than, a lot of these fitting platforms where you walk into some of these custom studios. Holy Moses, are they looking at data points that I just can't possibly imagine are consistent from them standing on a 6-foot mat in the store to how they're actually putting out on a golf course.
Right.
And so, none of those data points for us really matter. Comfort is king. And so this remote fitting, you're in your own home with your own putter, wearing your pajamas if you want to. Please wear pants. You'd be surprised at how many.
No.
Late. Oh yeah. We have a Hall of Fame remote fitting video file. It's amazing.
I'm not even going to ask to share that.
They are remarkable. But no, for the most part, they go pretty smooth, and most people are dressed. And and it takes 24 hours. Or the fitting, the customer side of it is 45 seconds at the end of your round. I mean, that's probably half the videos that we get are people sitting in the bar after they seemingly just got their ass kicked from their friends who said, I want to get that putter. And they say, you got to do a remote fitting. And so we have, friend who owns the putter doing the remote fitting in the bar after the round.
Oh, that's very funny.
So yeah, that's where a lot
but
of
it's
them
got to
end up
be
taking place,
indoors because you got to have that line.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Wow. Well, listen, fingers crossed, 2022 is going to be a huge year for you guys. You're at labgolf.com, social media, YouTube, just GolfWorks, GLF, WRX.
Yeah, GLF, WRX. Yeah, GolfWorks has some great information. Labgolf.com. It's a really, really in-depth website. We have stock versions of the putter available for a little cheaper. You can customize each one of our models to the nth degree and make it exactly how you want it. We got all the different shafts available now. We got different sight lines, different face milling, all kinds of stuff that's a lot of fun. And even if you don't end up buying a putter, the site's a blast.
Yeah. And let me just throw this in that, you talk about, yes, they are expensive putters, but let's talk about this. Is it really going to make a big difference in your entire life, whether you spend a couple more bucks on a putter and the satisfaction it's going to bring you, that if over that year that you've amortized the cost of this in your head, that you're going to be dropping multiple strokes in your game? Figure that one out.
It's no contest. I mean, particularly when you start thinking about how much you're spending on the driver that is doing exactly nothing for you other than being different for $600.
What about all the money you're losing on the golf course? I mean, don't you want to win some money?
Those are my favorite when people are on social media and, some guy chimes in like, $600 for a putter, get real. And
dude, you just lost $100 in a round.
Chime in. Exactly. And you'll have a half a dozen people chiming in saying, I made my money back on this putter in about 2 weeks. And,
wow.
With all the money they took from their friends. And by the way, if people do want to get into it, but the price is prohibitive, forging a putter is really, really difficult. And we get, with the directed forces of forged putter, we get these tiny little blemishes on them sometimes that are almost completely unnoticeable. but we don't feel comfortable selling them as a new putter for, $500 to $1,000. And so we called them factory seconds, and we created a whole separate website that is labgolfoutlet.com. These are pre-built putters that are ready to go. So you can go to the website and do the remote fitting. So you get your specs and then go to the outlet site, plug in your specs and see what pops up. So labgolfoutlet.com has all kinds of awesome deals. There's directed forces on there for, $250 to some of them all souped up with the fancy shafts and stuff like that, all the way to, $500 that normally would be $1,000.
Whoa. I'm glad I pursued this conversation as far as I did to get that information. That's huge.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's been super, super helpful and such an easier way for, people buying a putter sight unseen for reasonable prices. It's been very cool.
Labgolfoutlet.com.
Correct.
And labgolf.com.
Correct.
Awesome. Happy New Year, buddy.
Hey, Happy New Year to you, Fred. Thanks so much for having me on. And
of course,
you keep me posted on your progress with the putter, and I want to hear how your buddy does.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
Today's episode was introduced by Bill Hilton of Naperville, Ohio, which completes the first 10 Golf Smarter listeners to introduce the show. And thanks to each one of you. But after our random drawing, the winner of a box of Titleist AVX golf balls, brand new ones, with the Golf Smarter logo, is David Kern of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Congratulations, David, and thanks so much for your participation. But we're upping the ante. I'd like you to intro our podcast with your name, where you're from, and where you play most often. And if you do, you're going to receive a 1-year membership for Dynamic Golfers, valued at $90. Now, that's a prize you can use and not lose. To enter, click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com and let me know that you'd like to introduce our next episode. I'll assign you an episode number. Then you just call our toll-free Golf Smarter listener line to record your show open. It's going to be fun. And you can tell your friends you're on the show. And you'll get a year at Dynamic Golfers. So I read an interesting piece on golf.com titled, Low Handicappers Do This One Thing Much Better Than Higher Handicaps. And of course, we assume that putting better is the key to lower scores. But according to these statistics, an 8 handicap averages 0.8 birdies per round, and a 26 handicap averages 0.1 birdies per round. So anywhere from an 8 handicap to a 26 handicap, they're all getting less than 1 birdie per round. Then what's the difference to lower your scores? Well, check this out. An 8 handicap averages 1.9 double bogeys per round, and a 26 handicap averages 6.1 double bogeys per round. Amazing. Yet, when you think about it, it's pretty obvious. But what's the lesson here? Well, we've been saying it for years. Never follow a bad shot with a stupid shot. So rather than making shots that you've never practiced or have a low probability of success, to avoid those big numbers, you need to golf smarter. Now, I'm not sure if you listen to other golf podcasts, and that's okay. I'm not too jealous, but whatever they are, there's a good chance that Golf Smarter is the only one you listen to that made the short list of 8 in the golf podcast category for the inaugural Sports Podcast Awards. Please help us get noticed. Go to sportspodcastawards.com and vote for Golf Smarter a lot before March 1st, 2022. Hopefully your votes will take us to the top of the list when the winners are announced. If I win, that's great. If I don't, I made the short list. That's pretty damn good. Anyway, I'll leave a link in the show notes and on our website that will allow you to log in and vote for hopefully your favorite golf podcast. I've been telling you about our latest podcast, All the F Words from the Smarter Podcast Network, but there's something even more recent to share with you. There's a new buzzword floating around the internet and the investment world these days, NFTs. Have you heard about them? NFTs? Non-fungible tokens? Trust me, I'm not going to try to explain what it is, but we do have a new podcast called Crypto Changemakers that brings NFTs, artists, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits to the same table. Here's the opening of the first episode that explains it way better than I can with your host, my son, Danny.
From Luna for Good, I'm Danny Green. This is Crypto Changemakers, a podcast where we hear from social entrepreneurs, creators, and artists who are using blockchain technology and NFTs to do good in the world. I'll try my best to not use any jargon because I really want to tell this story. That crypto is unlocking new possibilities in philanthropy, equity and diversity, and financial inclusion. Though NFTs and cryptocurrencies can be bought and sold, this show is not financial advice. Today we are learning about how nonprofit organizations can accept cryptocurrency donations. Pietro Moran is the partnerships manager at The Giving Block. Over the last 3 years, The Giving Block has helped nonprofits raise millions of dollars from Bitcoin, Ether, and other cryptocurrencies. They offer a simple donation widget that can be added to the nonprofit's website and can auto-convert the crypto to dollars so that the nonprofit receives the donation as a wire into their bank account and never has to deal with the cryptocurrency. What I found most impressive from this conversation is that 80% of the donations actually come through the Giving Block's website, meaning that these donations are coming from new donors.
Pietro, I'm so excited to have you here today on the podcast.